Typing fast won't make you a great programmer, but it's definitely an advantage. Whether it's delivering projects quicker or freeing up more time for yourself, speed matters. But mastering fast typing takes time, something I highly recommend. Stick around until the end, and I'll share some great resources for coders. That said, there's an easy way to start saving time today, using shortcuts. Welcome back. In this video, we'll dive into the best VS Code shortcuts to boost your productivity. And if you'd like a similar guide for another IDE, let me know in the comments. Having more space while coding can improve efficiency by giving you a clearer view of your code. Closing the sidebar and the terminal will help for sure. But the key to working faster is using the mouse as little as possible. So, how can you toggle the sidebar without it? VS Code offers two ways. The first method is to open and close the sidebar using Ctrl+V. However, this doesn't shift the focus. You'll still be in the coding tab. To navigate between the sidebar and the editor, use Ctrl+0 to move focus to the sidebar and Ctrl+1 to switch back to the editor. The second method is to use Ctrl+Shift+E, which opens the sidebar with focus. From there, you can select files or make changes, and when you're done, simply press Ctrl+V again to close the sidebar. This automatically returns focus to the editor, keeping your workflow smooth and efficient. I prefer the second method. What about you? Comment below and let me know which one you find more useful. And just so you know, I'm a small channel looking to grow, and your support means a lot to me. The more you interact with the video, the more it helps me get noticed by the algorithm and share these tips with others. That's why I've kept some of the best shortcuts for the second part of the video, so just stick around. Now that we're in the sidebar, let's explore what VS Code offers for managing files. Once you have focus there, you can navigate through files using the arrow keys. If you come across a folder, don't worry. You can toggle it open by pressing Enter, and then continue navigating with the arrow keys. To clarify, pressing Enter on a folder will open it, while pressing Enter on a file will open it in the editor for you to edit. Unfortunately, there isn't a direct way to duplicate a file, which isn't a common practice anyway, but let's assume you'll need to do it someday. To duplicate a file without using the mouse, navigate to it with the arrow keys. Once selected, copy it using Ctrl+C and paste it with Ctrl+V. You now have a copy. What about renaming the file? Just press F2 to rename it. If you no longer need it, press Del to delete it, or Shift+Del to permanently delete it, bypassing the recycle bin. Perfect. Now we know how to navigate the sidebar without using the mouse, which can save us time, especially in larger projects with many files and folders. But let's be honest, we spend most of our time writing code, editing, and let's not forget the dreaded debugging. So let's take a closer look at the coding tab and see what we can do there. To save a file, you probably already know that Ctrl+S is the shortcut. But what if you want to close it once you're done? Simply press Ctrl+W. If you accidentally closed a file and want to reopen it, just press Ctrl+Shift+T. And the best part? It doesn't just reopen the last file you closed. It'll cycle through all the files you've recently closed, one by one, if you keep pressing Ctrl+Shift+T. Another way to find files is by using Ctrl+P. If you know the exact name, or even just part of it, this search feature filters as you type. Once the list appears, you can navigate through it using the arrow keys, or continue typing the name since the focus is already in the search window. Personally, I find the next one the most useful, and I use it a lot. If you have multiple files open and need to switch between them, you can use Alt plus left arrow or Alt plus right arrow. It's similar to switching between applications with Alt plus tab, but using the arrow keys instead. Before we dive deep into editing code, let's quickly cover the terminal window as well. Navigating to the terminal through the upper menu can take valuable seconds, and repeating this action constantly won't save you time. Instead, use Ctrl+tilde to toggle the terminal, or Ctrl+Shift+tilde to open a new one. Once the terminal is open, here are a few useful shortcuts. Ctrl+C will cancel the current process, perfect for moments like accidentally running into an infinite loop or when you need to stop a process quickly. Ctrl+L clears the terminal screen. It doesn't delete anything, and you can still access previous commands with the up arrow, but it gives you a fresh start. Another handy shortcut is Control plus page up or Control plus page down to switch between multiple terminals. Just be careful to use the page up and page down keys, not the arrow keys. It's also essential to know how to create new files, and you probably guessed it, Control plus N. Here's an interesting tidbit. When you create a new file, you can start writing code immediately. However, when you save it using Control plus S, you'll be prompted to name the file and choose the location. But here's a trick. If you save the file right after creation, before you start writing, you avoid any potential headaches later. And finally, for those moments when you need to open another VS Code window, use Control plus Shift plus N. Now it's time to dive into the coding window and explore how to navigate and edit code completely without using the mouse. If you made it this far, I'm really curious, how many of these shortcuts did you already know and use? Let me know in the comments. One of the most useful shortcuts is Control plus Shift plus L. If you've watched coding tutorials, you've probably seen people modify multiple instances of the same word simultaneously. This is the shortcut they're using. It selects all occurrences of a word, and once selected, you can edit them all at the same time, whether there are 2 or 20. But what if you only need to modify some of the occurrences instead of all? In that case, Control plus D is the way to go. This shortcut selects the next occurrence of the word, one at a time. Whether you use Control plus D or Control plus Shift plus L, keep in mind that once you're done editing, you need to deselect to avoid accidentally selecting more words or lines while navigating. To do this, simply press Escape to clear all selections at once. Let me show you something. Imagine you've used one of these shortcuts to edit your code, made your modifications, but now your lines are still selected. If you try to move up or down using the arrow keys, the entire selection will move along with your cursor. For example, if you had 2 selected lines, pressing the up or down arrow will shift the selection without deselecting it. And if you start typing now, you'll modify both lines, even if they don't contain the same occurrences. Just make sure you press the Escape key after editing. Alternatively, if you use Control plus D and selected multiple occurrences, you can undo selections one at a time using Control plus U, starting with the most recent one. If you selected all occurrences at once, pressing Control plus U will clear everything in one go. Pick whichever method works best for you. And to avoid mistakes, it's a great idea to practice in a mock-up script first before applying these shortcuts to real code. Spending a little time experimenting now can save you a lot of frustration later. Control plus L selects an entire line, and you can press it again to select the next line below. However, if you need to select upwards, Control plus L won't help, but Shift plus arrow keys will. Using Shift plus up or down arrow allows you to select multiple lines, but unlike Control plus L, selection starts from where your cursor currently is. If your cursor is in the middle of a line, the selection will begin from that point and expand up or down, depending on which arrow key you press. If you plan to use this shortcut, it's good to know about 2 magic keys on your keyboard that make navigation much easier. Home will move the cursor to the beginning of the current line. End, on the other hand, will move the cursor to the end of the current line. On German keyboards, the home key is labeled +1 instead. Want to move even faster? Combine these with Control. Control plus Home jumps to the very start of the file, and Control plus End will move to the very end of the file. Now, let's go back to working with selected code. One of the most important shortcuts for refactoring is Alt and the up or down arrow. If no code is selected, this will move the current line up or down. But if multiple lines are selected, the entire section moves instead. And even better, you can use the Tab key to indent a whole section, making it easy to create nested functions. If you need to duplicate a line instead of moving it, you can use Shift, Alt, and the up or down arrow. Just like before, if no code is selected, it duplicates the current line, but if you've selected multiple lines, it duplicates the whole block. When it comes to cleaning up your code, there are also a few shortcuts that can make things faster. Pressing Control, Shift, and K deletes an entire line instantly, without needing to select anything first. And if you want to comment or uncomment a line, just press Control and \. This also works on a selected section of code, making it really quick to toggle comments on and off. Now, here's a little trick that I bet not many people know. If you press Ctrl and C inside vscode without selecting anything, it still copies something. It actually copies the entire line your cursor is on. Let me know, did I win or lose the bet? You're probably already familiar with some basic shortcuts, like Ctrl and Z to undo or Ctrl and Y to redo. And of course, Ctrl and F opens the search box, just like in most apps or even web browsers. But did you know that pressing Ctrl, Shift, and F allows you to search through your entire project instead of just the file you're in? Once you press the shortcut, a search box will appear in the sidebar. When you type something in here, like a word or a number, vscode will show you every place it appears across all your files. You can use the Tab key to move around inside this menu, or use Shift and Tab to move backward. If you navigate to the three-dot menu, you'll find an option to exclude certain files. There's also an option called Open an Editor, which will load all the matching files one by one, so you can continue pressing Enter to go through them more easily. And here's where things get even better. Now that you can find a word everywhere in your project, you can also replace it everywhere without even opening a single file. Just press Ctrl, Shift, and H, and you'll see a new text box appear below the search bar. Here, you type the word you want to replace it with, and once you're sure, press Ctrl, Alt, and Enter to apply the change across all files instantly. These are my favorite shortcuts, but the truth is the list is much longer, and you can even modify them. The video is already long, so I'll just briefly show you how to do it and let you make your custom shortcuts. After all, it's all about you, and everyone works differently. Since VS Code is really versatile and can handle everything from data science with notebooks to mobile development with emulators and, of course, web development, don't be afraid to spend a little time making it more personal. It will pay off in the future. So, enough talking. Here's the shortcut you need. Ctrl+K+S. This will open the keyboard shortcuts menu. Here, you can take a look at everything available, and if you need to change any shortcut, just click the pen button and press your desired combination followed by Enter. Don't be afraid to experiment. You can always reset it by right-clicking and choosing Reset Key Binding. And if you really get into personalizing your setup, you may end up with some duplicates, which could cause issues. A good solution is to right-click after choosing your new key binding and navigate to Show Same Key Bindings. Here, you can see any duplicates and take the right action, whether that's modifying one of them or deleting it entirely. In this video, I've shown you over 50 shortcuts. Trying to use them all at once won't help much, because your brain needs time to adapt. But here's how to start. After watching this tutorial, analyze your workflow and figure out which shortcuts will be the most useful. Pick up to 3 to begin with and give yourself a few hours or days to practice. Once using those shortcuts feels natural, then it's time to review the video and pick your next 3. Keep doing this until you've learned all the shortcuts you need. Another tip is to create a simple cheat sheet with the shortcuts you want to learn. And if you're lucky enough to have a large monitor, you can keep both VS Code and the cheat sheet open side by side, which will help you learn faster. Now, I promised you a few resources to help you improve your typing speed. To type really fast, you need to learn the 10-finger method. This means using all 10 fingers while typing. You'd be surprised to realize that most people only use about 4 fingers. At first, it may be a little tricky to adjust, but with practice, the change will happen faster than you think. My favorite website for learning the 10-finger method is Tom Typing, and I've included the link in the description. This site will teach you one letter at a time, starting with the home row and working all the way across the keyboard. You can even create custom training or play random exercises. The key is consistency. Instead of trying to spend an entire afternoon getting frustrated, plan just 10 minutes each day. Before you know it, you'll see real progress. Once you're comfortable with the 10-finger method, you need to start practicing with real words. But programming doesn't just involve words, it also includes a lot of symbols. That's why I recommend SpeedCoder. This website lets you choose your programming language and practice typing with it. Both websites are free, and they even have competitive features where you can race against others. This adds a fun and motivating element to your learning, speeding up your progress. I started using these sites after a hand injury to regain my speed, and if you think fingers don't get muscle soreness, just wait until you try these exercises. So, that's it. Now you have everything you need to start speeding up your journey. If I've been helpful, don't hesitate to show your appreciation by clicking the like button. Unfortunately, I don't know a shortcut for that, unless you want to press tab multiple times until you get there, followed by enter. But if you're watching YouTube in a browser, press Shift+ to view all the shortcuts available in YouTube too.